This is Chariot TV. This
na onim say ene Saturday here na straight talk ana etwagu awmasum it is what yen ka straight talk ana etwagu na straight talk so dey no yeah, reading romance right ana yaje ho akonya ye person this is the 6th episode in so nya hwe your previous episode no about modern na oko YouTube channel no so a search reading romance right the copy up aba so subscribe to YouTube channel no so a also be to subscribe just go on YouTube and search Chariot TV copy up bar just hit the subscription button where it is subscription button now there is a bell there that click is where be notify anytime I go live now also waiting any we are live on YouTube Church of Christ TV and we're also live on live on Facebook Church of Christ, live on Chariot TV YouTube, and you are live on Chariot TV Facebook. And the Omami Hua na my kind comment so I'm as and when you drop in. Also, Jambe is at highlights watching that what's that tagging for, and there is Bay Christian 2025. I don't know who that is, but I'll say hi and therefore hi. Let us know where you're watching us from. Let us know in your comment section. We are studying the book of Romans and reading Romans right with Diana Jonathan Mensah. So anyway, so Mensa Kabra Shadrach if fear I Romans, the book of Romans. We have started, we have done 5 episodes. We started with introductory matters, looking at the entire the book is there in the Bible and its overall theme. The asymmetry aside that, we have also looked at trying to find out what caused Paul to write the letter. The book is not a personal letter. It's not a personal letter. It's not a personal correspondence between Paul and another person. Rather, it's a thesis on justification, or you can say a dissertation or a thesis, if you want, on justification. And Paul is defending why a man how a man can stand justified before God, and that is Paul the thesis. He said the key text is Romans chapter 1 verse 16 and 17. I was marked for Paul. I mean, I said, "Nani was and panel." If you say, "And Yankupon to me, I did quite Jim, my one or GD, I did that for Cane, and a hella also." And then see, Anna, yeah, yes, we have studied those texts and tried to understand what that text actually means. And next, anyway, it was so the book of Romans chapter 1, verse 18. But I put him in camera.
Brahma Joseph, number 2 here. All right. There are there saying and saying young Kwana Vision View.
Your preliminary remarks. I've been saying,
well, say, baby, I do know the obviously I feel Yakubia, Yamini, better not say, Pempenso, or the our be drew. And now, yes, sir, I have also say, or measure who ye. Through I feel a corner, you know, amount for move to Quine. Draw for more pentama pisica, giddy semne, I didn't know. One hand walk with share when share on peso be share. Into a stresser, and the animal show who ye were con to mu the old dear, the one mako mooning washing. This has a charity in ever person fee ever con a wee in every one animal. Now, you know, as I twasso in 2026. Until that's a little thing I would like to share.
Yeah, that's it. Let's dive straight into the book. Last week, we ended at verse 17. So I'll pick up verse 16 and 17. Then I'll read verse 18. Verse 18 here commenting on, but to get a trace of what we have been doing. Verse 16 and 17 last week, but verse 16 says, "For I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ or Christ. It is the power of God unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jews first, and also to the Greek." Verse 17, "For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. Verse 18 says, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness.
Yes, sir. Yo, so text now clearly. The Bible is telling us that Onyankopon ebuafu, and the buffo don't were revealing. Now, some of Paul my hint of it in the verse 16. No, when he said, "Say, he's not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation." 80. He's not ashamed because that's the only means by which God's wrath will not come upon you, upon me, or upon anybody who want to be saved. So, I know the wrath of God, no. Yo, one way I'll be doing say, okay, Yankopon buafu, and what dream no. A bet said the yen yebufu aye nipa yebufu aye no. But that's not what the Bible is saying. As a people are need to understand what it means when we say the wrath of God. So the wrath of God is not an emotional anger. So God is not like emotionally angry. They ebufu ebebobi. You understand when you are emotionally angry, you exercise certain kind of trait and I say habit be a ubewie no na fe look back I say who say oh yes sir. Then it's like one pastor be nyansa anto ho. And oh yeah because of ebufonti. But that is not what God message in Romans 1, no, verse 18 is saying. God is not saying I am emotionally angry. No. So the text is saying that God is legally angry. What the point of being legally angry? And it's a nipa what they are so trained bound so young crofo or more to young pomra or me crofo more ye near ma and kasa omuye asasi so. So it dates back, this wrath of God, no, date as far back as the time of Adam. And it goes as far as the time Christ begin. So that period is what we are talking about. And the Bible is referring to it as a period of wrath. God's anger is out on people. And this anger, like I said, is not emotional one, but a legal one.
So God's anger is illegal, but reading from the text coming down, it seems that Paul sort of drags the Gentiles to court. And he has charges against them. He has charges against why God's wrath is coming on them, and he presents his case.
This court setting, I like the idea of court setting, no? But this court setting, no, it's not only the Gentiles no are dragging. In this sense, we have two people or two groups of people being prosecuted here. It is a reading Bill 18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men. So we are talking about every man on earth. So what they have done, said Joe Ukokota, your friend be plaintiff. Plaintiff here, the ordain some abakoto. And when there's more like a civil case. But when there's a criminal case, we have what we call the prosecutor and the defendant. In this case, Paul is saying, there are two defendants and they don't move court by one prosecutor. And the prosecutor is there. But before the prosecutor will talk, he says, the power of God to save these people, no, is in the gospel. It is almost a gospel now. Then this is what is there for them. So he brings the first defendant, you know, which was your friend is saying, the patriarchal age, or the Gentiles, if you will. So the Gentiles is the first people he brought, but there's another defendant, which is the Jew. And that's what we're going to see in chapter 1, 2, and 3. Did I bring your attention on that?
So the reason why I put up the Gentiles in the sense that the entire chapter 1 sort of focuses on the Gentile case,
yes, sir,
and try to argue why the Gentiles are guilty. So that's why I said that he brought the Gentiles to court. So he brought the Gentiles to court in the sense that chapter 1 he focused on the Gentiles and tried to argue why they are guilty as charged. They have been charged of being sinners. They have been charged of having God's judgment against them. And Paul stands trying to prove his case why they are guilty as charged. And you know, kind of the wrath of God is not legal. It's not legal. It brings to mind the book of Nehemiah.
It's legal. It's not emotional.
Not emotional. It's legal. Not emotional. It brings to mind the book of Nehemiah. I want to say Nehemiah say Yankopon is slow to anger, but say Nebufu so in God's wrath, you know, is strong. But to say Abuana Owumuna white say Nenchino Boo, right? Boo Kwanichi say a quo,
yeah.
A quo, yes. The Ojinawana Uyana Nebufu na ordinary chuchu form, not the night chuchu form. Na Nebufu no boil up na drum pempensu na watija na kri on eba no oba no pemwa na se bia auto the na se nya na yeka so otija say so wokwa onyina ati se wapem and that's the idea that comes to mind when Paul is telling us that the wrath of God, and he says his part is revealed towards all the ungodly, is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and all unrighteousness of men. Verse 19 or saying, because, but I think before verse 19, my main can say be, verse 18 they say they hold the English, the translation, or say they hold the truth in unrighteousness. The idea is not like they hold it like this. The idea is more of like they suppress the truth. They suppress the truth. They hold down. That should be a better rendition. They hold down on the truth. They hold down on the truth in unrighteousness. And say Unipa bonea no cre money uncomfortable. So nimsa. So nipa te bonimwa bone when sin is in your life. Truth makes you uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. So there were two options. Either say you get rid of the sin. Now, what you mean no kratna, and I say you get rid of the truth or suppress the truth so that you can live with sin. So two ways in the mama also. But Paul actually so say I'm for no and nipa or come in chapter 1 no they have suppressed the truth because of sin. Now verse 19 they say because that which may be known of God is manifested in them, for God has shown it unto them. Nyankopon adane ho adi. They also nipa hunu nyame ho. Na mo nipa hunu no kra ba Nyankopon nchen no. Osman Paul say Nyankopon fa ehunta. Verse 19 no kai ma say bi say I want say you go school sometimes teacher ni kira dia mo teacher bi na o kira dia o university days na o kira dia yakokra. Now we did judgment day will come. There will be gnashing of teeth. That's the idea of person changing and said. So also we did Obama question will be anti-winter. It's either Munkasa or Munkasa. Judgment day will come. Nyankopon tesa. The Nyankopon person di no. na do person di pa hunu won ho no nya say we atem say okay mo say na mo ye me dey atem me twem mo na mo mra atemu da ba na mo no Nyankopɔn te sa Bible say the also ni pa hunu e wo Nyankopɔn ho that is oh I don't know what you think about it, but that's my thoughts.
Also, that last sentence, Mantini, what's what you're doing?
The Nyankopɔn pɛ sɛ nipa hunu wadan wadi ɛwɔ mu. It is the text. Verse 50 is not see because that may be known of God is manifested in them.
Yeah. So Joe, the point is that praise be I can say God does not wound unless he wants. Onyankopɔn ompra, Onyankopɔn onsay, agise wabɔ kokwansa. There's not a single time Onyankopɔn atwe nipa bi aso a Joe wamɔ nkoko. Every time obɛbɔ koko, obɛka akyerɛ mo. Na wakyerɛ mo deɛ ɔba bɛyɛ mo sɛ mo asesa mo adwene. So there's no way Onyankopɔn abufuo ebe escape nipa. Onipa biara no a wote asase so no. Onyankopɔn asɛm ma wohunu sɛ ne bu befu ana ne bu mfu. But Joe, the sad thing is that enipa hu we nim nyinaa sɛ Onyankopɔn bufuo nanso so no wɔnyɛ ho hwee esan so osusu sɛ hwee ensi. Now, most of the time, it takes time for God's wrath to be executed because he no person will be abera. But once it gets to a point where people start feeling, say, oh, she ain't see, then Onyankopon will bring his wrath upon man. Now, Joe, say before we are here, can want some no. Or say before no a free heaven. One thing is that it's not going to be a buffet of partiality. God's anger comes and it comes in full sense. It's not going to be partiality. Joe, it's not going to be dictated by emotions. And it is revealed from heaven. So a buffet no de bano. If free heaven, and all this before no eba na or the Bible to warm ensuro bone no mo kondo bone no or the towon so ere. It no yes yakodum pempe so wiase mu ha edipa fi so betima ye do pebia after all de be chance obewu uwu anasa. Joe, no. Who are inside? Who are a friend and a life and Casaba chance? Your test as so you say life begins at 40, me boy. Joe, real punishment of God begins at death. Uwo no so to me say a call back to your friends asamado for na you a call a buyer pay so say one year you end up being controlled by a year or near my way which will eventually bring the wrath of God upon you. That is something I think that we need to note. Say God gives us the opportunity to turn around. God blesses us in this life that we may see the love he has for us. But Joe, obi biara owo odo bebre no owo bufu. Awo ya ade ma ne pem na bufu no a. Ontumi sesa na dwen. Enipa ye bone ama Onyankopɔn ebo ne nsa no sei. Nipa ebone ama Onyankopɔn anu ho so oyoyen. And Joe, as we move forward, we address all these things that come up.
Yeah, as we move forward now, address it kakra. So Paul's charge and it said but verse 20 no or say for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things which are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. So that they are without excuse. But I think one of the most quoted passages in the entire Romans, is Romans 1 verse 20. Romans 1 verse 20. The invisible things of God are clearly seen. The invisible things of God, of Him, from the creation of the world are clearly seen. And truth standing on its head to gain attention. I said, no, Kreno, Kasa, Ekutiana, some more Kasa Ekutiana, but it's to get your attention. Truth standing on its head to gain attention. How can the invisible things of Him or the invisible things of God be clearly seen? I must say that the word seen here is not necessarily a physical seen. It means to perceive with the mind. That's the idea, to perceive with the mind or to understand. That's the idea. So he's talking about the invisible things of God, God's attribute being perceived or being understood. And then I'll try to say, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead. Minimara Bashada could thoughts in say.
Yo, we thought in a very simple. Paul is telling us something which is obvious. Paul is saying, when you turn around, yo, Pia Bontina will turn around. And then
And remember we are saying,
good. It is an no. What does it tell you? Do you think that one a pie by? So I'm so line need delay kakra. Yo, the point in this when you look around you are going to see about three things. Number one, you're going to see various designs. Selfa noma show design. Omo nyepe. Ebi mu ano so, ebi mu ano me ketwa. Ebi mu ye kese, ebi mu ye enketwa, ebi num tu, ebi num ntu. So these are designs ahodo a uhu wiase. Yo hwe me po, said me po sitie. Ohwe ensu ahodo, ebi ye apple, ebi ye sea, ebi ye small river, ebi ye a lagoon and a lake. That is what you see around. Anamewa. It is animal you see around. No? Question is, do any of them show say obine yana? Is there any kind of design? Because if there is a design, do you think everything in this world was designed? If it was designed, yeah, then it demands say the designer. It is a ufa onyankopon adebo a wabo wiase now the otuania. You are going to see that there's a design, there's somebody doing something. And once there is a design, then it means that there's a designer. Obi ene obetima hwe wiase wabra won hu se obi na ball wiase. Wabra won hu se obi na design wiase. So that's the point. I know okay say because they knew God, they did not in a way show sampa they know God. And yes, they don't know God. What they are doing is they are intentionally deciding not to know God. intentionally deciding say they don't know God. Now, Joe, you're interested, say, Onipa, everything against how. Say, and you say you're 2 years near you who so be a design bibi you. And I mean, some nay about some yaki catch around those days, you know, they were just telling issues, telling them the things, and they will pick them. So, the things that Onyankopon pese onipa hunu no, what done di ewo the way we see abo ade, jo the way we see esiesie ni wiase no. Clearly, Onyankopon pese enipa eba be hunu kre. Na se we ignore these evidences jo ewo wiase a, then if you will, about 3 things are going to happen. So we ignore say if we are see obi na designer or you be there obi na manager, you are going to then fall into what we call moral degradation. Now, Joe, you know what we are saying is say so nipa ba bedroom pempenso a also wan je Onyankopon to mu biewa ohun oman kwala nsua Bible oman kwala nsua Onyankopon ho ade biewa. Joe, they are going to fall into the problem of say number 1, they are going to have human relationship problem or sin, and then they are going to graduate to what we call idolaters. So omesha say name bia Joe womo gyan nyame di na fe no makofa bo so mo som no. Why? Because there's no human being on earth Joe on some bibi. I think say that session no need to be repeated. Say onipa bi a was asase so umpo you worship something. You are going to worship something, Joe.
Yeah.
Now say obi a onye Christoni and on na wo wiase a Joe osum bibi. What is say obom ye 80s no or say me there I don't believe in God. 80 ubisa or say I'm not religious. Joe, if you don't believe in God, then you have a belief. What do I say? Once you say you don't believe in God, no, then you have a belief.
Then you have a belief.
And that belief is not that God, no. It's where they are, every human being you are wired. Say over soon, baby. Yo, onipa bien wa on soon, baby. Say one some onyami bi a obeson wa ho. One some wa obeson afoforo. Na enam say Joe, enam say we onipa obeson biribi ntino. God has designed us so that we'll be able to see him and serve him. But the DNA, most of the time, so Joe, you're ready say we are going to do that. You're ready say we are going to accept the fact that God rules. Yo, we are science kakra. We need more 80s ne nasefo. What is the whole idea of 80s? Most of the times, omo me 80s over no. Or sinami Church of Christ, sinami Catholic, nami say ena mejai. It idea be na ma ujai no. Osha says narrative, then it becomes Joe what you are worshiping. It my fan try say we onipa what I want sonre. Osman for Paul say oboa wunim Yankopon de. So no betima Joe, but what they oho akwahye bibi fofrase. Eto to aso ajo yekoye nimu anema miensa obabo so relationship that you have with your fellow human. So we ignore Nyankopon. We ignore Nyankopon asamo. Joe, you're going to have a relationship with your fellow human beings. Now let me tell you one funny thing. Joe, you hear them say, we need to treat each other with love. Others say, we need to treat each other with love. Joe, how are you going to do that? The source of love, no, and why you ignore no. So how are you going to have it? So Joe, and Yama 3 be or more. Yeah, Baby will say, we ignore Yankopon pet. Those 3 things start setting in. And the first thing is human relationship problem. Number 2, Joe, sexual problem. Sexual problem. And then you are going to face other human issues. And you know, you're going to see all these things telling you, say won't to mean put Yankopon now to me, sir, and ye bibia kama Emma. Okay. No. Once you reject God and his word, Joe, you reject almost everything that they have to offer you.
Yeah, once you reject God and his word, not reject bibia the Bible. We will still comment a bit on the verse 20. That few things I think is worth I would say highlighting and sana abia if you swap, but and sana my main kind some comment about more be my internet, you know, but you see bit me but who say ja entry a film or say watching live watching cramping the boy Baffo say watching from Kulibu. Boatin Harry or say live from Kumasi, God bless you. Patrick Kiabi or say Ajamasu Bekwai. Patrick Kiabi Chrono or say Abraham Walker what he tags some people. Anna Patrick Kiabi Buffalo. Okay, Paul and Amepeno and then the Brofono. Yamame Yvonne J. Also good afternoon, brethren. Who say Daniel Chum. Nyante Eja Daniel say watching live from Accra. Anna Major say Eja Richard Buampong or say it is live at from who? Okay, from who? Thank you. Thank you. Let us know where you're watching us from. We are glad that when you're that now for a straight talk on Chariot TV. And what we are discussing is reading the book of Romans, right? Romans 1 verse 20. I mean, we must say, for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen. So Nyankopon only pe say onipa biara hunu ono Nyankopon se no sitie. Nti onipa betena bia se na bashada ka twa adwigina so na onipa ne say oye 80s then he's clearly not looking at the evidence. He's clearly not, because Nyankopon fa ne huntai. It's not like Nyankopon ne hunta. God has given us the evidence, things that we can clearly perceive and understand. And Paul, looking at this, is arguing that you can perceive or understand the invisible part or attribute of things of God by the things God himself has made. And he has given us evidence in things that he made. We can give an example. As I say it this way, I mean, you can take emphasis and as I say it this way, you didn't kind a chat so the earth of Casam say is revolving around the sun. You try and a try yet as a Chile American on Namu. He's run as is run at a very high speed. And we don't feel it. You know me, if you say assassin movie, we don't even feel it. We just sit on it and that's it. Yeah, Juma, the channel is saying that, but the earth is moving around the sun. I don't know. Assassin no so and so a child it's revolving around its own axis. No one can say no says to channel and the man the channel the channel and we don't also see it 24 days 24 hours in the day no trying to see or come back And no nancheno, assassin so a wobble, assassin wobble. No, I said, I say what I take. Na attending is sipa kuna a channel. Or why not as I see, or why not as I see like that. All these things are happening on the air, but I mean, Timon, you don't feel it. You feel it. That shows us God's creation and his power, his might, his ability to show. Into the passion hand your manual. The conclusion I said, Baba, and they said, Yankopon, ye. See, I said the Hebrew 12 on the kind, Hebrews, the book of Hebrews, I can't. Assembly, but in different words. Hebrews chapter 3, verse 4, no. Or 12 for the cast, he must say, for every house is built by some man, but he that built all things is God. Or see, fear be a nipa be the sea, who pays the abontina, who fear be a. I mean, you don't need to see someone building it. You don't need to see. Oh, you can't come and imagine if you know, Castle. You'll see an old mamma channel. Ebia, you'll see an oko obiama, but you don't need to see the one building it, or you don't need to see it being built before you believe that there is a builder. Hebrew 12 for say if you biara will be the seer. Now you see a day in Yakopon. God is the builder of all things. God is the designer of the design we see in the universe. He is the designer of the things that we see. And he has not one protector, one pan one and one the entry. Well, he will as my food my trade nine. About Paul Nam Listra. Now, all can some no. Okay, say, and for whom Paul. Paul Barnabas or more Cassania, they are doing Centennial, they are more yet. Omode ene kese tie mu wo Lyconium kase mu se enyame aba yentem wo nipa tibiam nti akwa ba akwa abosomsom ene de pa oye obosom kese ba akwa esofo edibika krikri ana okofa aboa so bobo afode ama Paul ene Silas is an adwen ene say Paul ene Barnabas I should say nadwen ene say Barnabas say Jupiter na Paul Mercury and Hermes into your bar for the ammo. Now, yes, over for an Paul, yes, maybe part of someone. And Tiasama Paul kind of verse 15 or say, and saying says, why do ye these things? We are also men of like passion as you, and preach to you that you turn from these vanities unto the living God, which made heaven, earth, sea, and all the things that are therein. Nyankopon a boss. It's not Zeus. It's not Zeus na was through baby or control. Yes, so Nyankopon the boss assassin. Nyankopon the ball on the control and Poseidon on the control. So talking to these pagans about some soon for in a point the nature is Nyankopon the boss through bass assassin about pulling your man. Verse 16 or say, who in time past suffer all nations to walk on their own way, or say bread chemono or jaya share and my mind no more on fire baby I want befa. Nevertheless, he left not himself without a witness. It's like a chronobia boss of Phoebe. If I say be a what to quite feel. Now Obia ba abevia beggar about your book down we are no bianima. Of course, you who send you maybe I with you. But comfort baby, I don't know. We know as I truly be. Was I trust say, Sadia am ye, Sacroni, assume a senior boy, make us a home alone. And home alone, yes. I dare there be a December, Aquabaco, one of the series don't be home alone, one of the home alone series, no. Now, Omu breaking in, if you are no way, Jack will be a tab, so. A comfort almost signature. Or what sense to dear no. Obiekif more. Oh, we are what the age now will be a tap. If you hot tap is soon will be a so. No, we can airport. In that one, which no say, I will be now why do you leave this tab? A movie, no say we are the wet bandits. Wet bandit, you are more near so. I don't want to be yes, so they can out of
Obi fu proba be wia mo an mo tenye ya.
They can count the number of houses. The word bandit. That's what the Bible says. Leave himself without witness. He has left his footprints on the surface of the earth. With Jan and Namon, we are to say, when we are say, it was not for Paul say, he has not left himself without witness. Now, in that he did good. He gave us rain from heaven on the toes you. He gave us food seasons on the and he filled our heart with food and with gladness.
Yes, sir.
There's a god, I think a Roman god or something. Roman god, a Greek god series on a combat no say no, not God, not that. And Paul made it clear, drove that point home, that God left himself without witness. But in Acts chapter 17, Paul here was some phobia in Acts chapter 17, market. Or market na or near my cost market no go for any job or some. Indeed, only on Casa, sending out for you drink a crack, still not say, Omunti the all kind that no say, yeah, make it and almost fair is okay, bra. And almost imagine sort of a town council hall, a meeting, a place of Mishia, and discuss issues. About today, almost had the whole class out to Abosom. Aries, the god of Aries, the god of war, Aries, no, only I told say, or no, nebe pony, indeed, almost the battle. You kind King James now say they brought him in the midst of the Areopago. Argos Pagos, the hail of Aries or the hail of Mars. And I'm catching Paul say, well, you can see it too. Some can but as a wono, near market canon, as a seed picker, babbler, we can send be as a cover for Nancy be free, or be baller so. And our concept. We want to hear you, can it? And I like verse 24 as my Paul can say, God made this world and all the things that you see therein. The Lord of heaven and the Lord of heaven and earth dwell not in temples made with hands. Now can verse 27 will say that he made all those things that they nipa should seek Lord, if happily they may feel after him and find him, though he is not far from any one of you. Just trying to show and point out clearly to us. Paul has said, the invisible things of God are clearly seen. The invisible things of God are clearly seen.
I think that and yet just the things that you can see in Quran. And yet just the designs. There is also order. There's an order in the way things go on. What do I say? Things are not messed up. What are you? If you see a woo, that ben I won't say Adia Sana Jobe 12 a.m. and I say 1 a.m. Ahomachi. Now, but sorry that area air boarding then they were honum. Ebisi what do I say? So sorry now to see a bontine shrine, a white shrine, you nay and Solomon shrine. And here we are. Of course, there are places you say area a sum mother, 10 beyond a hoye. Wait. A home so sign it here. So almost that sorry be Nasa a ho adani a sumwa almost a ben. So there's an order in things. Okay, Genesis chapter 1. Do the verse a year 3 no bano. Was it then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. So when you twaso about from Eba say, I think the verse 9, 10, ABC verse 11. Yo, beka besisu say God has designed the world to have days, to have night, to have seasons. What I say, when you go to seasons, say there is going to be a fall, there is going to be spring, there is going to be winter, there is going to be summer. When you go to and Joe, you drew May, June, July, August, ewa America. Obi anim say ewa summer mu. Eto ko niema omoton store niema enye ohyew niema wo sha ube free ehyew new. Because Joe, aha summer no enye bi ene Ghana o. Aha summer no ewia ne bodin din.
You mean how we are no? And this say we are
enye bi ni Ghana de no. We are bodin din ma upia na ohunum crash show. That is Chrome summer. But my point is say in the middle of summer no, you are not going to see winter. You say ebia middle of summer na ebia enso to na fe snow asha ase to. Why am I saying that? I'm saying this to let you see say there's an order in the way things are being made. And the
world is very predictable.
Yes.
We can tell exactly when this will come. They can tell, they can predict even eclipse. You say your website to be you can just go and ask the next eclipse whenever, and it will tell you exactly the date. That shows the orderliness. The orderliness and Nyankopon ahyehyɛ bi ase Nyankopon ayɛ and the predictability of the world because of orderliness. So now when him say we brainy or pe brainy, to brainy, scotchia brainy, obia nim ne bre. And this shows God's design and is predictive. But only Kasa.
Now me can be do verse 5 where say God called the light day and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the morning. So God created this to be the season, to regulate the seasons. It say only yamini now jidi say and it came by itself. It say a big bang. That Big Bang Theory, Ohana Bibi, Ekabo Bibumuna, Iwiasi Pie, and a Neoma Pie, Joe. It no sound say, Tedena, Udipana Catraman Pien Mumaso. Na a son so, I'm so. Na Osha, a more and omu facial, a more facial. Now, a nipa facial. You will know, say, even though you're penal, but one designer and a yo, because Abwe Biara almost a more inano, or one no eshe or mohinase. Abwana no any nemoma so, and an nina hiniaba, baby. That tells how the designer said the why no. You say, Upia Bontina could share be a view. Na no bon mama so a uyam show. Uyam show. So who was animating 90 Bibian can't also be a design. You say Kotale, not had an ocean the way you see a pam noa. It's Bibin can't just a machine at the pamadi. There's a machine at the pammy. There's a nipa na guide at the end my pammy. That's the point God is making. Say when you look at the things in the world, there's a signature, and I like the way I can also say there's a footprint. There's a footprint on everything to let you know. Say, I say China for your money. We are the unquaya or China.
Made in China.
I want you who made in China.
Zambe omo mpeza omo chono omo kase mu eno ha omo oya kasa oncho ni chi but made in China no be chono chi
yes. Well, I said one chron is I say my own ship.
That I was made in
and
China.
And they always try to make it visible so.
Yes.
Made in China. They leave a signature, they leave a footprint on all things. And Joe, that is an incredible statement Paul made in the book of Romans, letting us know, say, there's another mixture, say, in our reading, we'll get to see, say, if you deliberately, and that's what Paul is saying, say, people deliberately try to ignore these evidences. Joe, Obia will try to ignore evidence, Biano. Also, most of the times you become like dishonorable. And you become a liar and a hypocrite. Because evidence should not be difficult for us to point out evidence. Especially when they are clearly seen. Until I was one for Paul, but can say, even though these things are clearly seen, what do the people do? They ignore them.
And you know something, okay, chapter verse 21, chapter 1, verse 21, the managing back, the last line. So they are without excuse.
Exactly.
There's a famous statement. It says, you will find a man without his wallet. So you might find a man without his wallet, but you will never find him without an excuse.
Yep.
You bet men na wallet in shady boto. Fine. But we shall now be sending bibi or adwene bi obeka excuse bi or the bema. There's something you can't you will find without. So and then one said the power excuses on why not to follow God, or excuses on why not to believe that there is God. And then one. But Paul said that those excuses won't stand. So I knew ya ni power one no amount for no. It will not stand. They are without excuse. That's
Joe 21 no. Meaning say I move about 21. I mean can say also because although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God. That statement is very, very, very profound. They knew God, but they do not want to regard him as God, nor were thankful, but became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools. Joe, the first people who can way about him, professors are mobile PhD. Universities I can say, almost say, Yamibi anyhow. What I say, and some of them, okay, I was say, Mishana me sorry. But Minina and Moon saying Yamibi anyhow. Who says that Daintina, Ufi saying Yamibi anyhow. I say, with all my belief, me buy a no. One Sunday a day, it's Yamibi anyhow. Emma, me, Holy Spirit has something by they say. They professing to be wise, they become fools. Because the first say Oba area when ya yaresano, and just say, unless you say, ejato fie na utiem obimro, obimabo na unebes na mpiama. Jo actually say omunte ase. for whatever reason, your neighbors did not come out. It will say the neighbors don't exist. Logical reasoning no afahin. Now okosra or say because they knew God. So Joe, the main reason why these people do not believe in God, it's not because God doesn't exist, but because they deliberately do not want to glorify God. They feel like God wants appreciation, God wants to be honored, and they are not going to give it to you. Oh, Joe say, when I own Yango Pona, more come or sort and they say, you need pass the open and see your mouth that. That is the point. Now, Joe, so when you could do some persona, now this is what you have to do. You have to deliberately blind yourself. Because verse 20, or say, for since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, are clearly seen. Yo, say, you need to force yourself. Yo, it takes years of convincing yourself with a lie and buying into the lie before you can become atheist. And yo, it takes more belief to be an atheist than to be a Christian.
Yeah.
Because before so build up a belief system wankasa wakuma and one dream beji tum sam panyami any ho.
Yeah, but to make it clear, let me give an example. So the author said it takes more faith to believe that there is God, there is a mind that made things.
There's no God.
And that it takes more faith to believe that there is no God than someone who believes in there's God. The reason is this. Take for instance, we see the BI who said, Kramai, you see, Kramai. But someone will claim that, well, Kramai if you nearby. We have not seen that Matra try 7.10. They want to get life out of these dust or light out of these non-living chemicals or the living things, and it has never happened. So it will take greater faith to believe that you can get life out of non-living things than the one who already believed that there is a life giver who gave life. And that's the idea. It takes greater faith to believe that there is no God than to believe that there is God.
Intina funny say an atheist because said me, I have no faith. I'm not in any faith. It's okay, Obi also in say that is your religion. I almost say I don't practice any religion. No, the point is say you practice a religion. Your religion is not to believe that there is God, especially when there are clear evidences. So for me, Obi oye atheist no, yo, Obi oye sanema no, yeshia no a osabasobo. Osabasobo pa say obetimi adwen wan say on the onyinyame there's no God. No koda. No wada. No sorry so a was sorry. Na owia was say obibia ni ho. Enti one musa say then they assume any ehan enya bypass no. Like omo e bypass omo ho. So that me twam say sum twam say ya na ehan aba. Na time no so a na ehan no so ko na sum no so aba. And this regulation, you see them and you still believe that there's no God. Or some of Paul say, what about PhD there? Now, so in your thoughts, in your thinking, you become futile. And the main reason is that you have deliberately convinced yourself that there's no God, and you are not willing to give that animonyam to Nyankopon. And the conclusion is that you become stupid. Because then you are now going to not just fight God. You are now going to fight your fellow men. You are now going to fight things, natural things. What we are saying, you are 80. When you lose that mindset, say there is God, and you lose the fact that there is something that regulates this world. The word of God is supposed to be the regulator of the things that are happening in this world. Joe, when you ignore these things, is serious. And Joe, you start believing in yourself. Now, me jump the gun, but my a gist or something. Joe, over America, say when the people started not believing in God and they started pushing for their own interest, don't tell me the Bible says this. Don't tell me God says. Don't tell. Morality is defined by us. And this is how I define my morality. You have your truth. I have my truth. Allow me to do whatever I want to do. Joe, the moment you do something, pensono, or some of Paul Becker say, when you go my stupidity. Now, onye giant stupidity, Joe, and near my best start here, no. After you do pempenswa, we are not going to have a limit. Joe, there's no limit in being someone who doesn't believe in God. Because if you don't believe in God, you start believing in anything and everything. So, form this LGBT Q. It started with LG, LGB, and a T also, and a Q by, and as I say on Monday.
Only plus also be plus.
Plus number say the thing keeps going because there's no limit. If you leave God, the limit, the sky is your limit. You're just going to go. One of the things are enipa kasetia obi otun kwala mona.
Yeah.
Joe, na first and you say akoda time be na oye sensible so to me go into sexual relations. First now 18 years. In fact, now 21 years. It moved to 18 years. And Ghana they say 16 years. Joe, in Europe, the age of they have to say 13 years. Now this is what is I think about 18.
Yes.
I didn't disgusting. I did buff some time say, Obi a papa penimuna o chase akwala ketekete. You are back a normal. America can okay, because the law will be on the person's side. Why? Because we have left our God. Joe, Ujanyamia. Oh, Niema who do I obey me? Just beyond your imagination. I don't know for Paul, so they professing to be wise. They sit down, make calculation, make research, and they come out and say, oh, we think this and this and that. No. You are becoming a fool. And okay, I'll say, professing to be wise, they became fools. 21-22, meaning they all come from.
Yeah, so clearly, you have well, Paul say, Omunim Yankupon, Adia, Omanya said, person glorify me, and one person better than go pass it. They don't want to glorify God, they don't want to be thankful, and because of that, they became vain in their imagination and foolish in their heart. Sending now well, it takes so then the other side of it depends on so many things. Weird. Nyoma kwan bebrebe ana enya kwan ewura mu a onipa ne beje die na onipa ne ho behye mu. And these are things that Paul atwa so say this enters in when a man refuses or rejects God. Say na there are several people. I mean, when said evolutionist, mechanical evolutionists are mechanical for GDA became or all life form came from a single life source, and all life forms out of that and we free. How am I complicated? Fine. Evolutionists, that's their belief. And they have been teaching for years that these things are things that has happened and stuff. To the extent say, it got to a time, the best scientists at that time, one of the best scientists and now chemists at that time will try say they will synthesize life from the lab, because life to them, life is just chemicals. It depends on the party where you are just chemicals and molecules, nothing like soul, nothing like spirit. That's it. So the point was, okay, then said, yeah, with our best technology and our best lab, let's make life a single cell. Let's build up cell, life form near how we see it. They failed. With all their technology, with all their advancement and things, they couldn't simulate life. They couldn't simulate. The funny thing is that they couldn't even get amino acids. Amino acids are not even life. They couldn't get amino acids, different kinds of amino acids in their right order to pair up for even to start trying to make life. Just trying to show you how futile, how vain a man believes that we are said only party me journey. And you know something? There's a scientist I was searching. Oh, Kasanami, I was thinking through my mind to find his name. Not working on the brain. Going to lab every day, looking at monitoring lab machines every day. He is the one that started trying to think. He wrote a book he was measuring stuff at Nipa Junior that they are monitoring, studying the brain for a long time. Then one time he saw that their actions happen before the brain thinks about it. In other words, Nipa, your name is see. And we call them reflex action, but that's not the point. There are other ones. As a BB share on action feel and Sakwa no adwene ho say, hey, say that BB she feel. But there are other actions that happen before then even start thinking about it. So his question was, so what is happening? He's the one who started telling us that there must be some sort of a ghost in the brain who seems to be driving some of the things that happen in the brain. That's where the mind came from, because mind is not material, but science is material. Science is material. Brain. All they know is brain, heart, blood, vessels, cells, those things. Where did the mind came from? So he is the one. And he started trying to do it. That's a happen one. He did it a lot of time and realized that there are certain actions that happen before even the brain takes note of it. And he came to those conclusions. So the point is this. Paul said, onipa udwane free nyankopon nchen, onipa opese owane free nyankopon nchen no, the person will go for far. Obekwachi. So opese udwane free nyankopon nchen said say they profess to be wise, they become fools. Also nyansafo. And so now I am verse 23. I think you're closing verse 23 no. Now you say, and not only did they profess themselves to be wise, and they became fools, and they changed the glory of the incorruptible God into image made with corruptible man, to birds, to four-footed beasts, and to creeping things. So there's a progression. So you're incorruptible. And I'm corruptible man. So the progression is from higher coming down. Or then the form. Or then the form say, or the bar form will nipa intelligible. Or the bar form will nipa tibium. I know if you nipa tibium, or neba more a boy too, or no form, a boy too. I know had the bar form, no in free a boy or real form, four-footed beast. I know you in the bar form crack to set the bar a war, a boy or we are creeping things. Trying to show how progressive and downward unipa etching who free nyankopon ho oko.
Now, Joe, what would the flip side of Adeno? And on the Bema Nipaye more, excuse my words, but more foolish. No?
Yeah.
Because any human being is wired. Every human being can say, not any. Every human being is wired in a way that he is going to worship something. Opompo jo obesum baby. So it started with the supreme being now, no. So, like the people of Athens said, to the unknown God. So this supreme being supreme being, no, no. Yo, yes, now we are tired of it. It's on him. Yeah, physical. It's on Yamina or no, yeah, Cassiano or son or chrono. Yeah, Joe, over to me, I will said, what's it that boom pen? Wow, be design be. And Tiasem no can or say they did the changing. Any panel changes, no. And also they change what? They change the glory of incorruptible God into an image made like a corruptible man. It is that okay, no? Onoana a creating nipa. O creating nipa no wia. Jo ono a creating nipa na wie no. Ono na create o nipa na o create no. Ono ntumi mane nante, ono ntumi mane home, ono ntumi na emane nkasa. Na jo woni ma de oye. No akofa obi nipa foforo. No na betena nipa na wo create na ase. Na waka kire say sa nipa na wo create na wontumi nkasa na ono na ebosom no. Na wa felt the obetena on so ono na e comfort nti on kasa ma bosom no.
Bosom no.
Etu ko bosom no ho a na obetia no ma wusu bibi kran 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 kle nana say Jimmy nana no nano na bo ho no ontimi mie na no nkasa enti ede na obeji atum say de wote wonom no ena all kind someone it how do you get to know say nana say
Nana say
eja epo ehonom a no rush
akoma so uko tebiri no uko bambo ko mwano
nana no ka kira o say kokokum abo afabre no koye we ba abra wante se wo ka kire wo jo abosonsom nyame se enka no kore enkwase asem abosonsom enkwase asem na
okay jakra se nana no van se area osom bi na ufie retu a osisa saw ne o ma no wasa sara tabi na sika mu anaka
waswa no na jo and all can say incorruptible like wow kokotwa dua ne free nwuram na wa betena say waste time na wasene make ama jo bosom bia no yes scary o nipa na omote ho no na ma na yes scary anamboa eti o sene bosom na o sene ne se nanim nya huhu na onchechia no mfa bibi ngugu so yes ana omoye no akote ahaban bi no de ayeye ne ho na amabosom no ho ayehu mo enipa na criticize
no ya de oyi ejia na okwase ye ni oyi ho ehun propro wa na oyi ye no de asoja
no de anu nsuo adware bibi ama ni trim se on kai se na edua we kura no mia na mkotwa ayo na mbesene ye jo wia no obebutu fom no okoto dua no na waka kire dua ne se minyame na ojimio no oto aye inyuma edua na ono kofa baaye no ebu wa broni ba broni the friend broni ba ai dolls no okoto no osare no yo corona by India for eto omo abosu mebregu yi na wo kan say ya na sebi obi a office social commentator a che so no ye nyansafo atena social media so no omu twa boye asofo na akristofo say bibini de broni di ni nyame ba na waje adi na wo dia wo no wo dia de wo so wunyini look at that yo say wo be catch me say those days me kaipa ye kurase a me na kurase the next ekura na wo ho na me nana be ma no kwabrabodu ne wo faase mu fie na konfo bi wo ho yo yesu sa no ye suro yes omu we ye betwa oti ubekọ ne etwa akụkọ ubekọ ne etwa na ntwie na ai obete edu awia ase nana say ochina mumra oba fa sima die we fa we bra agrosa jo pilolo na ehu ate abo ese sram yesu sara yo mbenyine na ese se yo hwema bi no mobo akiro ebi oso a eyi na ekura no omia na eyesa omia fe abosonsom yankwase asem na uye we nyina awie a wakoda yo obutimi ye to the sense okofa ebiananka no de na beto ade animu yawo animu no ofidi no dako okoye na nankan aka ne say graw no de awu yes wa akoye bosom na chi wade na bosom no kuno what I say this is what is happening and sabi aburu uko kan say ye na nanom eyi no there be o think about it sabi won so wo adwene da utrim erade asem say wo no wo sachira wo nyankopon ni monyam ye se wo de ma no a jo wo de ma bosom eti jo obi biara oye saade ni bia no oye ready for anything etu de ya study he abosonsomfo opayire no bebre mebo a
yeah
omuma abosomfo bie ni wo ombuma enti nema omuka ensem omu chese de omu be bia kire se there's a problem. That is the kind of system where you womb ajo arawo sam say ye ma krisosom enwura yen so much say ebema sankrofo ya lukuspe omo look foolish in what they do. It no wo mumbo abe dominant and the excellent say yen ni gisa na ma no ho yen kra ya be krisofo no ohini bi wu a na hede we a abrafo na yi na ye de asresra yanim na ye de akokọ ahye yanim na konfoi na ebi chana camera da omuso na ye ho adwiri ye se ye de akosi na mamenka se bi chiro da menana ayi ase menana no ye konfo afija ase ayi ase ena akonfo ebegu ho no mu kom kreke no mu diasa no mu huriko na media de na meti ase ne se akon na afa ho nti de obeka bia ne o mote na je o mu kom saa ma me ba ko tona de no de ne sa bom no kom no ye se ana ma ba ko ton ade o ho ana ga no kom ba no se se onum na do nsa to ma ade ni ma de wa mesie suma wasum no jo obeje de say konfo no kom ya wanfa ho wanfa ho. That was the day my mindset changed about akom. And I'm saying and I say nti oya no say ensa no mo anom sa na mo ni so ayon kra no ensa to ori ensa sa na okeka haba bi bom no ori a na nani so an kra no otwa no ho o de se kan twitwa no ho kra ne ho mogya ne ade na wo so te o say akonfo no mo ya ade o akonfo no say jo but the point is it doesn't negate the fact say money any sa na man wo ho that we are not negating that.
Yeah. You're not ruling out those
But the point is say, ono Nyankopon obo ade nyina no. Enipa decide say onfa nimonyam ni buo emma Onyankopon no. Jo obekoto e de ama ono nantwi a ono a design. On say we Bible mu a Aaron asem no. Utie Aaron report or the man Moses a. E de be nti na waye saa ohoni. Possible me anya me o. Enkrofo na no omo ye na mejeje omo agudie ne ade no.
Omo agudie be je omasoma ade ne omo nkawa. Omo nkawa ne omo asoma ade.
Mitugu jem na we free jenubu epie. Ade esi e design ade wo ehone ewo ani wo pedua. Ewo pedua.
Hey. Unia shitoli papa.
The first to lead in the Bible.
Aaron, shitoli papa. I say, hey, I think me did omo nkawa ne omo kan ko made ene omo change na mitugu jem na ohonyini shiri jan mu pie. Hey, Aaron.
Yo, eno abi na etimi. Etu tie ya nanse 7 ensem e keka na kyerese yo abosonsom ye de. Now what people do not know ni say a nipa human being is wired, he is a worshiping being. A nipa bia a worshiping being. So we are there ebesum bibi. And what people need to understand is say before Christianity extended to us no na ye wabosonsom mu. Yeah, na no so abosom. Na nya yanko na Christosom beto ya na so abosom. Jo, ye kan Acts chapter 14. E dey na no mo ye ho. Abosonsom na no mo ye dey. Omosom when Christianity came to them. Over Corinthia, abosonsom na no omosom when Christianity went there. It is a young abosonsom na Christianity abeto ya. And you're the one where be until you have to fight. What must say? Trying to fight Christianity say a abrofo esom normally a babe shame na ebino kika shep na di Christian Bible buy no and no one a day a snap buy a den no kika na say
and when this slavery ba
and teachers say wa Kenyans asemo ama nunti no ye upload no. Bro, tiasie say abosonsom enkwase asem because the entire enkwase asem jo ebia next week brebeba kwa me ya discuss ya Isaiah asem na okan no Isaiah say ukonwuram na okotwa dua na de abafie na wabesene na de ayakonwa atena so na de aka no wasene na de aye bosom na asem propro waro wo de asoja na wo de atoto pan no na wo de bi atoto nam yo wia awo na watena ho ato na ho aye ohye na wo de adidi wia wano nso de akodware udware a enso ne gu opampam no ama wutirim se sa abosum we wo na wo design ye wo na wo de nani sha ha wo na wo de nsa sha ha wo na wo ye ama wutirim udware wie a no okobutu saa dua nanim se nana ona na me ho ate madware me de aseda ebrew se o ma maduane di ye o ma masase eyeye enti ema wutirim se ade no na okotwa ba afie. That is the point we are making. Enunti na jo eyensem hunu no na ade biara enipa bedi akire saa no jo elidi into a whole lot of confusion na enei ya saasi so ewe jo wonu de eboso ayesom no 10 years ago and I said 20 years ago jo de na eboso ma na yesom no 20 years ago no na abusuafo no nyina ye tranimu say na ye hwe edebade ya TV. Those days now, Yenni bi wo fie ne ade no. Jo okotena obi fie na ye tempum ne ehwe TV. Eno na ebeda ne boso mai. Jo say the abe replaces anime a phone. Onam kwam no otwa kwam kro ni ba bia ohwe phone no so saa jo eno nko a. Eti every generation bia no ye di bribisi wa eno ne ye waste your time. Adon no na ye jo se wo hye nipa mienu o te ahwe na ne phone kobo fom a obema ne body na hwe fom now they are protecting the phone. That is where we have gotten to in life. Me can be also can be me boy asambwa. Eti no enye nwanwa se ebinumo ekotwa edua afiri nwuram no mo so de beye bosom eso no. That is a sad reality. But in Shanka Nyankopodi say we don't bow down to these things to worship them. We have discovered the truth, we know the truth, and we have the living God whom we serve. We pray to him, we sing to him, we glorify him because he's our God. Joe, we bow down not to any calendar, not to any chokabi, not to any rubber band, and not to any ring. Joe, we worship the living God. And when you invited will be our worship, say there is a God whose habitation is not among men. Nebuchadnezzar, I come for no catches and anna. Adia will be saying, Enyamia won tibia in the assassin. Or tenabia in the assassin. That is the God that we recommend to all those watching us. And that say, well, how be near our manebia? Yo, enye mopa, enye alpha hour, and they are now. No. We call on the God of heaven, who can do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ever think about or even imagine. That is the God that we recommend. Say, Osman for Paul say one could this yo, you become foolish in your imagination and the way you do your things. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Reading Romans right na igusua eyebubu hono. Mankind some few comments then signing off. Particularly basically the folly of atheism. All artificial things are made by man, and all natural things came up or sprang up from its own. Okay, we Daniel, I'm wabbing. God bless you. Particularly when so as out about reading the book of Romans right. Moses Mary Johnson. Imam Mary Johnson, say God bless you. Happy listening to you.
Master no.
Okay.
Master Obano.
Is it movie I found Mary Johnson's house? So I was thinking but picture the mom say no, it might be someone different. Yeah, Mami Doris Che. I did highlight about say watching you live from Italy. Particularly the golden calf, the calf that came out of fire. I don't know Nampa next week a better shape you reading the book of Romans or reading Romans right and I use ya. But more than amount so only Bible at Bible. Senebea ya can carry Roman for home and I was with me I can be no shame Muslim. I don't know me ya better shape you median your time and macrobia. Bye bye.